Today I have in front of me the Option O Lagom Mini conical grinder. It's probably one of the smallest grinders that you can get that has a motor in it, and I'm excited to review this for you. If you could do me a favor and please like and subscribe, that really helps me produce more content as a YouTuber. Also, I have an Instagram account called @Kabin'sCoffeeCorner. You're more than welcome to follow me there as well. So I did reach out to Lagom for this, asking for a unit to keep for a review, and they offered me a discount. As a result of that, I reached out to them. They did not reach out to me, and I have full say on whatever I want to say on that, but wanted to give a disclosure on it. So first off, I want to go over a few of the little features on this grinder, and it's got a magnetic catch cup right here, and it just snaps into place super well. It's got some nice details where it says Option O on the side, and then it has like the Option O logo right there as well. It's got a magnetic cup on the top of it, and it's got a, I don't know where I put it, it's got an anti-bean popper on the top there that I got rid of and I don't use. More on that a little later. And then it's a stepless grinder, and you simply just turn the dial at the top here, and it spins fairly well. And it's got a little indent to mark where your grind size is. On the side you have the power button right here, simply just press in, press out. And then it also has a power cable, and the power cable simply plugs into the back like so, and then you have your power cable plugs into the wall, you're good to go. Flare did make a portable battery, and this battery is compatible with the Option O. So in other words, you can travel with your Option O grinder by simply plugging it into here, flipping this switch, and this will give you plenty of power to make it well over a week of grinding without an outlet. So if you're camping, you could purchase that and make your coffee without hand grinding or without an outlet. So first off, this is a very expensive grinder. I think it ranges somewhere between like $400 and $485 on Prima Coffee and Option O's website for US. So it's very, very expensive. With this grinder, there's no case that comes with it, so I did purchase Option O's case. So it looks like this, and it's moved around a little bit in there because I put stuff I shouldn't have put in there. It's got a little pouch here, and the grinder, every little thing comes out off this grinder and has its own slot. So the grinder goes in here and like so, and then the battery portion goes in this other side. So it's a nice, neat storage, but it's also a huge storage, and it's also $45. And basically all they did for this case was simply, it looks like they took the foam from the shipping box and put it in this case, and it's not the most well-built case out there in the world, and I would not recommend spending $45 on it. Instead, I would opt for something else, which is this little tube right here. This little tube is the Easy Presso case. It has to be the Easy Presso branded case, otherwise it will not fit. I tried to buy some other ones off Amazon and it didn't work. And it doesn't fit the greatest. Obviously it's cut out for more of a hand grinder, but I can fit the whole grinder in here without the power cable. So typically when I travel, like I recently flew, and I threw the grinder inside this case and put it in my carry-on. Also, if you do travel with a grinder, it does often get flagged by TSA. Just fun fact for you on that. They often think it's a flashlight. Don't know why, but anyway. Nice stepless grind setting. There's a 0 marking here. That's obviously not the 0 marking off of grinders. It's not the true 0. So like all grinders are kind of just different a little bit, but it at least gives a marking here. So I'm like right in between like -3.5, 0. So basically what I found is pretty good for me to grind for espresso if I put it straight on 0. And then if I do one full rotation of it, then it's pretty good starting for pour over. So that works out really well. Option O does give you the option to have these little stickers here that it comes with. They're white and black, and you can stick them on here to kind of give you some grind indicators to help you a little bit. It also comes with a nice little sticker pack of Option O stickers, and there is 8 of them, 10 of them. There's 10 of them. But yep, that's basically what it is. To give an example of how tiny this grinder is, Here we have the Turin H40. This is similar to like an easy presso grinder or just a traditional hand grinder, give or take. So it's a little bit taller, not much wider. It is wider, but not much wider. It might actually be. It's a little bit wider than a Commandant or so, but overall, it doesn't like. It's not like drastically larger than a typical hand grinder, which is great, which makes it doable for travel. It's obviously still a little bit bigger, but I want to talk about more my experience with it now. Now that we got the size and the features out of the way, this does grind for espresso and pour over, and here's my thoughts on it. So one of the things that I've realized when I travel, especially when I travel, typically I'm traveling with somebody else, or maybe I'm meeting a friend there or something like that. So like if I travel, meet my family somewhere, I'm typically the one that makes coffee. And when you have a hand grinder, not necessarily this one, but a hand grinder in general, you grind one shot of espresso. It's some work, but it's doable. It's not bad. Then you grind another one, and then somebody else sees you make coffee, and then you grind another one, and then you grind another one, and then there you go. You have ground 4 to 5 coffees with a hand grinder, and it's just not the most enjoyable experience on vacation. Not that I'm against serving and helping people and providing coffee. I'm more than willing to do that, but it's just something that I kind of wish I was back home where I had my grinder in my normal setup, and that made it kind of difficult to do that. Grinding for espresso is just never a fun experience anyway for me with a hand grinder. So that's what made me interested about this. Now I was concerned a little bit because it said that there was like a limit in the manual, like don't grind this more than this amount per day. Make sure you wait X amount of time in between grinds. So what I did was I threw some grounds in there, started it up, ground in it. It did it pretty fast, maybe 30 seconds, give or take. I didn't time it, but typically when you're doing some other stuff, it's not too bad. I did have it stall a few times. This is a very rare occasion for me. I used this the past 2 weeks every single day, multiple times a day, to kind of give you an idea of what I was doing with it. So typically if I had it stall, I simply click the power button and turn it off, and then click the power button again, and then it ground through everything perfectly fine. And this was a pretty light roasted coffee to begin with. So I would make 4 or 5 shots a day with this grinder, and it held up completely well. What I found lacking more than anything in my entire setup was the Pico Presso that I used ended up getting really hot after brewing multiple shots of espresso, and then that ends up making your grind size need to change a little bit, but more or less it did the job well, and it got through all the coffee, and it made traveling, like when I think of making coffee traveling, like this just gave me so much more enjoyment in the process of things. It made me more willing and wanting to make coffee for others, and it felt like it took way less time than it. So I had a nice travel kettle, scale, and coffee in my Pico Presso in this, and it was a phenomenal setup. And I also had a pour over as well in case I wanted to pour over. So oftentimes I would make, the first week I traveled more by myself, so I made a shot of espresso every day and a pour over every day, and it was super nice to just be able to grind with an electric grinder. And then last week on my most recent trip, I would do somewhere between 2 to 6 cups of coffee between espresso and pour over, and this held up really, really well. And I'm really well pleased with it. Now when it comes to the quality of it, this is obviously a pretty expensive grinder, and I'm kind of torn. I don't use conical burrs as much as the majority of the grinders I have. Typically I have flat burrs, and the Option O does a very good job of both pour over and espresso. It's not blow my mind out of the water quality, but I would put it similar in the range of a Niche Zero in a sense. Like it does do good shots of coffee. This is just obviously subjective, so try not to bash me too much. The Niche was okay. It wasn't super impressive to me. This will do a little bit better than something like the SD40 by Turin. Now I have the version 1, and they did upgrade the burrs on it, so more to come on that when I get my hands on a newer one. But this is also double the price for it. So I don't know if like where the value is. I did travel with an SD40, and it got the job done for pour overs, but it was way bigger. So like if you have the budget, I would aim toward going to this Lagom Mini because it does allow you to travel well. It is incredibly well built and incredibly like hefty. Like, I'm amazed at the quality of this. The magnet chute on the bottom of it is phenomenal. It's got a pad on the bottom of it. It's quiet. It works well. It grinds at a decent speed. It is rather expensive in the $400 to $500 range, but I do think it will compete pretty well with the Baratza Siete, and I think it would compete really well with a Niche Zero, although I haven't tasted them side by side. But overall, I'm very, very happy with this. All of the concerns that I had of a lot of stalling issues, the motor being kind of weak on it, it is definitely weaker than typical grinders because you have the small form factor, but I really do believe that this is the best travel setup. And if this is something like you travel a lot for work or you're gone a lot, I would not hesitate to buy this grinder for your trips. It's small, it's compact, it's not the smallest thing in the world, but I mean, that case, if you get the Easy Presso case, which is 20 bucks give or take, it fits perfectly in that, and this is the size that you take up. Obviously, you have to figure out how to heat up water, things like that, and then you just have to throw this power thing in there. If I was getting on option O for any issues with it and any things I'd like to change, is I would like to see these prongs turn up inside of the this power brick here. I'm not sure how much watts this is weighted for, but if they could figure out how to make this smaller, and half the size. I know Anchor, I have a 60, like I can charge my MacBook Pro with something like a fourth of the size of this. So I feel like this should be able to be made smaller, but overall it's a very nitpick thing. This grinds super well, super happy with it. I wish they would like maybe give like grind indicators on top of these little dots so you know this is 1, 2, 3, 4, so it just kind of helps you remember things and go back to things a little bit easier. But overall, this is a phenomenal grinder. This is a grinder that I always say this a lot because I go through a lot of gear, but this is, for the time being, my travel grinder. Unless I'm going very, very lightweight and very, very compact, then I might pick up my Turin SD40 to grind, but if you can change to this, it would be great. It takes up, if I were buying a grinder for home and it was between like the Niche Zero and this and I wanted a conical one, I would choose this because it takes up way less space than anything else on my counter, and it's super compact and I can travel with it, which is very rare in a grinder that you can put this in your home setting and travel with it. This grinder makes me interested into seeing more of what Lagom and Option O grinders can do. The quality of this like, you get what you pay for with this. This $485 or whatever it is doesn't seem like a stretch to me. It seems like a fair price and it seems like a great quality, and I think it's something that many people would be happy with. I see every single penny that they put into this thing was well worth it in the terms of quality on this. I don't know the longevity of it. Obviously, I've had it for maybe a month or so, but it's a great grinder. Just don't buy the travel case. Buy the one from Easy Presso for half the price and half the size. But that is my Lagom Mini. If you have any questions on it, please let me know in the comments below, and maybe you'll see this again in a travel video about how to make the best, bougiest espresso while traveling. More on that a little bit later, but thank you so much for watching, and if you've made it this far, please do me a favor and like and subscribe. Thank you.